The beast had torn apart 12 handlers, injured 20 guards, destroyed 3 titanium cages, and now, a 6-year-old girl was walking towards it as everyone screamed for her to stop. If you've ever felt invisible to the world, like no one truly sees who you are inside, this story will touch your heart in ways you won't expect. Her name was Lily Bellwether, 6 years old, dark hair cascading down her back, eyes that carried a sadness no child should ever know. And one detail that changed everything. Lily didn't speak. Not by choice. Not from birth. But because of something that happened 2 years ago. Something that made her close her mouth and never open it again. Her mother, Sarah, worked as a housekeeper, cleaning the mansions of the wealthy, washing clothes that cost more than her month's salary. And she did it all with the dignity of a queen, because that's how she wanted Lily to see her, as someone who never bowed down, no matter how hard life got. That autumn morning, Sarah received an offer that seemed too good to be true. A job at Shadowbrook Keep, 3 times her usual salary, a room for her and Lily, food included. It was the dream of any single mother struggling to give her daughter a better life. What Sarah didn't know was that this castle held secrets, and the greatest of them lived in the dungeons, chained, furious, and about to be executed. The Shadow Lord, Kael Draven, was a man who made others tremble with just a glance. 34 years older, hair as dark as night, eyes that seemed to see through every lie, and a heart that had frozen the day his wife died. 2 years ago. No one dared to speak about the Queen. It was forbidden. Her name had been erased from the records, her portraits removed from the walls, as if she had never existed. But there was one thing Kael couldn't erase, one thing that reminded him of her every day. Nightclaw. The beast had been a wedding gift from the Queen, a dragon hatchling she had raised with her own hands, docile, non-loyal, the most faithful companion anyone could have. But when the Queen died, something broke inside Nightclaw. The docile hatchling transformed into a 10-foot-tall monster, black scales with shimmering purple highlights, golden eyes that blazed with fury, fangs capable of cutting steel like butter. 12 handlers had tried to calm him. All failed, some with scars to prove it, others who could never use their arms again. 20 guards were injured trying to contain the beast during his fits of rage. 3 titanium cages were destroyed, as if they were made of paper. And now, the Royal Council had issued an ultimatum. If Nightclaw attacked one more person, he would be executed at dawn. Kael had 24 hours to decide the fate of the only connection he had left to his dead wife, but none of them knew what happened in the dungeons of the castle every night. Sarah and Lily arrived at the castle the next day. The carriage stopped before oak doors that were twice the height of a man. Lily looked up, her eyes wide, her mouth firmly closed as it always was. A woman appeared to greet them, Lady Beatrice Ashworth, the king's arranged bride. Impeccably blonde hair, a red dress that cost more than Sarah would earn in 5 years, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lady Beatrice looked Sarah up and down with a disdain she didn't even try to hide. Then her gaze fell on Lily, the silent girl, the girl who held her mother's hand as if it were the only real thing in the world. "So you're the new housekeeper," Beatrice said, her tone turning each word into an insult. "And this is your daughter." Sarah squeezed Lily's hand a little tighter. "Yes, my lady. This is Lily." Beatrice crouched down to Lily's eye level. The girl didn't flinch, didn't look away. She just stood there, silently, as always. "She doesn't speak?" Beatrice asked, looking at Sarah. "Lily went through a trauma, ma'am. She needs time." Beatrice laughed. It wasn't a laugh of sympathy. It was a laugh of scorn. How convenient. A housekeeper who brings a defective child to the castle. "I hope at least you're competent." Sarah felt her blood boil, but she swallowed her anger. For Lily's sake, for the job, for the roof over their heads. Lily, in turn, didn't react. Her eyes were fixed on something behind Lady Beatrice, something that no one else seemed to notice. A door, small, almost hidden behind a tapestry. And behind that door, Lily could feel something. Something that called to her in a way she couldn't explain. If this story is touching your heart, leave a like and subscribe. Every subscription helps bring more stories like this. The first few days in the castle were an exercise in survival. Sarah worked 16 hours a day, cleaning, cooking, washing, doing everything she was told, and then some. And Lily accompanied her in silence, always watching, always attentive. The other servants spoke in whispers about the mute girl, some with pity, others with suspicion, but no one really tried to connect with her. It was easier to ignore her, easier to pretend she didn't exist, except for one person. The Shadow Lord Kale saw her for the first time on the third day. He was walking down the hallway when Lily appeared in front of him, carrying a stack of linens almost her size. She stopped, looked at him, and showed no fear. This was new. Everyone feared the Shadow Lord. Servants lowered their eyes when he passed. Nobles stuttered when they spoke to him. Even Lady Beatrice, his betrothed, kept a respectful distance. But this girl, she simply looked at him as if he were anyone else, as if his title, his power, his reputation meant nothing. Kale didn't say a word. He just walked past her and kept going. But something in that look stayed with him, something he couldn't define. That night, Lily did something that would change everything. She waited until Sarah fell asleep, quietly got out of bed, and went to that hidden door behind the tapestry she had noticed on the first day. The door creaked as it opened. Stone steps led down into the darkness, the smell of dampness and something stronger, something animal. Lily should have been afraid. Any child would have been. But she kept going down, one step at a time, until she reached the dungeons. And there he was, Nightclaw. The beast was even bigger than Lily imagined. 10 feet tall even lying down, black scales that shimmered in the dim torchlight, titanium chains binding his paws, and those eyes. Golden eyes filled with a pain that Lily recognized immediately. It was the same pain she saw in the mirror every day. The beast saw her. Its head rose. A low growl began to form in its throat. It was the same growl that had sent seasoned handlers running in terror. Lily didn't run. She simply sat on the cold stone floor, crossed her legs, and looked at Nightclaw with those big, sad eyes. The growl stopped. For a long moment, nothing happened. The beast and the girl just stared at each other. Two broken creatures. Two souls who had lost something precious. Two existences that the world had decided to ignore. And then, something incredible happened. Nightclaw laid its head back on the floor, closed its eyes, and for the first time in 2 years, the beast slept in peace. Lily stayed there for hours, sitting in the cold, watching the sleeping creature. And as the sun began to rise, she stood up silently and went back to bed before her mother woke up. No one knew what had happened that night, but it was only the beginning. The next morning, Lady Beatrice summoned all the servants to the main hall. Sarah went, leading Lily by the hand. Something in Beatrice's gaze said that this wasn't going to be good. "It seems someone hasn't learned their place in this keep," Beatrice began, her voice echoing through the stone walls. "Last night, I discovered that one of the maids left crumbs in the hallway of the east wing, the hallway that I use to get to my chambers." Sarah felt her stomach drop. She had cleaned that hallway. She was sure it was spotless. Beatrice walked through the hall, her heels echoing like death sentences. She stopped in front of Sarah, looked at her with that cold smile. "It was you, wasn't it?" Sarah opened her mouth to defend herself, but before she could say anything, Lady Beatrice looked at Lily. Or perhaps it was your defective daughter. Children like this shouldn't be in keeps. They should be in institutions where they belong. The hall went silent. Not a servant dared to breathe. Sarah trembled with anger, but she knew that if she said a word, she would lose her job. And with it, the only chance to give Lily a decent life. Lily looked at Lady Beatrice, and not with fear, not with anger, but with something that looked almost like pity, as if the 6-year-old girl could see through the cruel woman's mask and see the miserable person underneath. And it was then that Lady Beatrice said something that would change everything. I think we need to teach this girl a lesson about how to behave in the presence of her superiors. Beatrice snapped her fingers. 2 guards approached. Take the girl away. Let her spend the day in the kitchens as washing pot with no food until she learns. Sarah took a step forward. My lady, please. She's just a child. I'll clean the hallway again. Twice. 3 times. Whatever you want. But please, don't punish my daughter. Beatrice smiled. That smile of a snake about to strike. Too late. Decision made. And if you say one more word, you can leave with her. Sarah looked at Lily. The girl wasn't crying, wasn't begging, just looked at her mother with those eyes that said more than words ever could, eyes that said, "It's okay, Mom, I can handle it." The guards took Lily away. Sarah stood there, in the middle of the hall, feeling her heart break into 1,000 pieces. The other servants looked away. No one dared to defend their colleague. They all had families. They all had bills to pay. They were all too afraid of losing what little they had. But someone was watching, from a balcony on the 2nd floor, hidden in the shadows. The Shadow Lord Kale watched everything. He saw Lady Beatrice humiliate the girl, saw the mother forced into silence, saw the servants look away in shame, and he saw Lily being taken away without shedding a single tear. Something about that girl intrigued Kale, something he couldn't define. Was it the way she didn't show fear? Was it that silent dignity that seemed too mature for a 6-year-old, or was it something deeper, something he recognized in himself? Kyle turned and went back to his chambers. He had other concerns. The council, Nightclaw, the ultimatum that hung over his head like a sword ready to fall in 24 hours. Maybe less. He would have to decide whether to execute the only thing that remained of his dead wife, in the kitchens. Lily was washing pots bigger than herself. The water was almost boiling. Her little hands turned red in minutes. The head cook, a robust woman named Martha, watched her with pity but didn't dare interfere. Orders were orders. The hours passed. Noon. 3 in the afternoon. 5 in the afternoon. Lily didn't complain, didn't stop, didn't ask for water or food, just kept working, mechanically, as if her body was on autopilot while her mind was somewhere else. And it was. Lily was thinking about Nightclaw, about the way the beast had laid its head down and slept in peace for the first time. There was something about that moment that she couldn't forget. A connection. A silent understanding between 2 creatures that the world had decided to abandon. When they finally released her, it was already night. Sarah was waiting for her at the kitchen door and ran to her, hugged her so tight that Lily could barely breathe. "My girl, my brave girl," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Forgive me. Forgive me for not protecting you." Lily hugged her mother back, and although she couldn't say words, her arms said everything. "I love you. I forgive you. We're going to be okay." That night, Sarah fell asleep holding Lily, exhausted, defeated, but still there, still fighting. And when Sarah's breathing became deep and regular, Lily did what she had done the night before. She got out of bed silently, went down the stone stairs, and went to find Nightclaw. The beast raised its head when she entered. This time, there was no growl, just a look, a recognition, as if Nightclaw knew she would be back. Lily sat on the floor, in the same place as before. And this time, she brought something with her, a piece of bread that she had hidden in her clothes before being released from the kitchen. She placed the bread on the floor, pushed it towards the beast. Nightclaw sniffed it for a long moment, just looked at the offering, and then, with a gentleness that no one would imagine possible in such a large and fierce creature, took the bread with the tip of its tongue and swallowed it. The golden eyes met the girl's brown eyes, and in that silent exchange, something solidified. A connection, a promise, a pact between two broken souls who had decided not to be alone anymore. Lily stayed there for hours again, watching Nightclaw, being watched by him. And when she went back to bed, there was something different on her face. It wasn't a smile. Not yet. But it was something close. A seed of hope that had been planted in that cold, dark dungeon. What Lily Bellwether didn't realize was that her nightly visits weren't as secret as she thought. In the council chamber, the torches flickered as the Shadow Lord faced his advisors. There were 7 of them, old, wealthy, powerful in their own ways, and they all agreed on one thing. The beast must die, Your Majesty. The eldest of them, Lord Marcus, spoke with a voice laced with irritation. Do you know how many workers' compensation claims we've paid to the families of the injured guards? Do you know the risk it represents to keep this creature in Shadowbrook Keep? Kyle didn't respond immediately. His fingers drummed on the arm of the throne. His eyes were fixed on a point in the distance, as if he could see something the others couldn't. Nightclaw belonged to my wife, he finally said. His voice was low, controlled, but with an edge of steel that made the councillors swallow hard. Your wife is dead, Majesty, Lord Marcus retorted, perhaps with more boldness than he should have. The beast has gone mad with grief. There's no cure for that. There's only one solution. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush. Cale looked at each of the councillors, one by one. He saw the fear in their eyes. He also saw the determination. They had decided. They were just waiting for him to agree. You have until dawn, Cale said. If nothing changes, I'll do what needs to be done. The councillors exchanged glances. It wasn't exactly what they wanted, but it was enough. The meeting ended. The old men retreated. And Cale was left alone on the throne, feeling the weight of a decision he didn't want to make. It was then that one of his trusted guards approached. Victor, a man who had served the royal family for 3 generations. Majesty, there's something you should see. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Victor hesitated, then spoke. In the dungeons. The beast. Something is happening. Kyle followed Victor through the dark corridors of the castle. They descended the stairs that led to the dungeons, and when they got close enough to see, Kyle stopped. There she was, the mute girl, the maid's daughter, sitting on the floor in front of Nightclaw, and the beast that had injured 20 guards, that had destroyed titanium cages, that had made veteran trainers cry in fear, was lying next to her, calm, peaceful, almost looking happy. Kyle watched in silence. His heart pounded in his chest. His mind tried to process what he saw. How long has this been going on? He asked Victor. 2 nights, Majesty. Victor replied. I discovered it yesterday, but I wanted to be sure before reporting it. Kyle said nothing more. He just watched. The girl, the beast, the impossible connection that had formed between them. And for the first time in 2 years, the Shadow Lord felt something he had forgotten existed. Hope. The following days were different in Shadowbrook Keep. Kyle didn't intervene in Lily's visits. He didn't forbid them. He didn't encourage them. He just observed from afar, like a man trying to understand something that defied all logic. Victor kept a discreet watch in the dungeons, ensuring the girl was safe, although by that point, everyone knew that Nightclaw would never harm her. Sarah discovered Lily's nightly outings on the fourth night. She woke up and found the bed empty. Panic consumed her. She searched the corridors, the gardens, the kitchens, and when she finally thought to go down to the dungeons, her heart almost stopped. There was her daughter, her 6-year-old girl, sitting just a few feet away from a beast that had injured 20 trained guards. Sarah wanted to scream. She wanted to run and snatch Lily away from there, but something made her stop. Maybe it was the peace on her daughter's face. Maybe it was the way Nightclaw looked at her, not as prey, but as a friend. Or maybe it was Victor's voice, speaking softly behind her. "Don't worry, she's safe. The king knows. He's watching." Sarah looked to where Victor indicated. In the shadow, barely visible, was the Shadow Lord, watching his daughter, watching the beast, with an expression she couldn't decipher. "Why doesn't he stop this?" Sarah whispered. Victor thought before answering. "Because maybe, and for the first time in 2 years, he sees a reason to have hope." What would you have done? A normal mother would have pulled her daughter out of there immediately, but Sarah saw something that made her hesitate. She saw the light in Lily's eyes, a light she hadn't seen since that day, 2 years ago. Comment below what you would do. Sarah made a decision. She didn't snatch Lily away instead. She sat on the stone steps and waited. She waited until her daughter finished her visit and came back on her own. And when Lily saw her waiting, her eyes widened for a moment. Then, she simply took her mother's hand and led her to Nightclaw. The beast looked at Sarah, looked long and hard, assessing, deciding. Sarah trembled, but didn't back down. If her daughter trusted this creature, she would try to as well. Nightclaw snorted. Then, to everyone's surprise, he laid his head down again and closed his eyes, accepting Sarah's presence as an extension of Lily's. And so, the two began to visit the beast together. What Lily saw that night made her eyes fill with tears. It was the 5th night. Sarah had fallen asleep in the room, too exhausted to accompany her daughter. Lily went down alone, but upon arriving in the dungeons, she found something different. There was a faint light coming from a corner, a lantern, and next to it, an old chest that Lily had never seen before. Someone had left it there purposefully. Lily approached. She opened the chest, and inside she found treasures that told a story. There was a dress, white, embroidered with silver thread, a wedding dress. There was also a diary, pages and pages written by hand, and there was a photograph of a beautiful woman with golden hair, smiling next to a dragon pup. The pup had black scales with purple highlights, bright golden eyes. Nightclaw. The woman was the queen, Kyle's deceased wife. Lily picked up the diary. She turned the pages. She couldn't read everything. She was too little, but she knew some words. Love, friend, always. And a phrase that was repeated many times. My Nightclaw, my protector, my heart. Tears streamed down Lily's face, not from sadness, exactly, but from understanding. She understood now why Nightclaw was so furious. He had lost someone he loved, just like she had lost her father 2 years ago, just like she had become mute with grief. They were the same. Lily looked at the beast. Nightclaw was awake, watching her look at the queen's things. His golden eyes gleamed in the faint light of the lantern. There was a sadness in them that Lily knew very well. Slowly, Lily picked up the queen's photo. It led right to Nightclaw. She showed it to him. The beast stared at the image. For a long moment, it didn't move. Then a sound escaped its throat. It wasn't a growl. It was something softer, something that sounded like a lament. Lily did something no one would ever dare. She reached out and touched Nightclaw's muzzle. The beast closed its eyes, and in that touch, that silent connection, 2 broken souls found a moment of peace. Kyle watched it all from the shadows. He had left the chest there. He had left his wife's things for Lily to find. He didn't know exactly why. Maybe he wanted to see how the beast would react. Maybe he wanted to torture himself with memories. Or maybe, deep down, he knew that Lily needed to understand, to be able to help. What he didn't expect was his own reaction. Seeing someone touch Nightclaw like that, seeing someone show kindness to the creature that everyone feared, seeing the same photo that he kept close to his heart, that photo he looked at every night before sleep, the Shadow Lord felt tears streaming down his face. The first time in 2 years. The next day, Lady Beatrice began to notice that something was amiss. The guards seemed less tense. The servants whispered about miracles in the dungeons, and Kyle himself seemed different, less cold, less distant, as if something was changing inside him. Beatrice didn't like it. She had worked for years to conquer this position, seducing Kyle when he was vulnerable after his wife's death, convincing the council that the kingdom needed a new queen. And now, when she was so close to getting everything she wanted, something threatened her plans. She needed to find out what it was. Beatrice had her spies, servants she paid to report everything that happened in Shadowbrook Keep. And it was through them that she discovered the mute girl's nightly visits. At first, she didn't understand. A child visiting the beast? Impossible. Nightclaw had injured trained guards. How could it accept the presence of a little girl? But when she sent one of her spies to check, he returned pale. "It's true, milady. The girl sits beside the beast, and the creature is as gentle as a kitten." Beatrice felt the anger rise. That defective girl, that insignificant servant, daring to do what a dozen tamers couldn't. Daring to get close to the king through his pet beast. This couldn't continue. Lady Beatrice began to elaborate a plan to eliminate Nightclaw once and for all, and along with him, destroy any hope that the mute girl might represent. But there was a problem. If she simply killed the beast, as Kyle would investigate, he would suspect. And if he discovered that she was involved, it would be the end. No. She needed to be smarter. She needed to make the beast seem even more dangerous. She needed to prove to the council that there was no salvation. She needed to make Kale give up on his own, and she knew exactly how to do it. That night, while everyone slept, Lady Beatrice descended to the dungeons. She carried a small vial with her. It contained a red liquid that she had obtained from a shadow apothecary. Poison, not to kill, but to insane. 1 drop in Nightclaw's water bowl. That's all she needed. The beast would become aggressive, uncontrollable. Even the mute girl wouldn't be able to calm him. And then, the council would have its justification, Kyle would have his excuse, and Nightclaw would be executed. Beatrice smiled as she poured the poison. Tomorrow, everything would be finished. But what she didn't know was that someone had seen her, in the shadows, small and silent as always. Lily had woken up and descended for her nightly visit. She saw Lady Beatrice near the water bowl. She saw the vial. She saw the red liquid. Lily didn't understand exactly what was happening, but she understood evil when she saw it. And what Lady Beatrice was doing was evil. Very evil. The girl waited hidden until Beatrice left. Then, she ran to Nightclaw. The beast raised its head, recognizing his friend. But Lily didn't sit on the floor as she always did. Instead, she went to the water bowl, and with all the strength of her 6 years, she knocked the bowl over on the floor. The poisoned water spread across the stones. Nightclaw watched, confused. Lily returned to him. Her little hands trembled. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she needed to protect her friend. She needed to prevent something bad from happening. The mute girl couldn't speak. She couldn't scream for help. She couldn't tell anyone what she had seen, but she could draw. Lily spent the night awake. with a piece of charcoal she found in the kitchen. She drew on a piece of cloth. She drew Lady Beatrice. She drew the vial. She drew the water bowl. She drew lines that represented something evil being poured. And when the sun rose, Lily had her proof. Now she just needed to make someone understand. Some people will pause here and reflect on this incredible girl. If you want to support this type of content, consider using the super thanks. Each contribution helps bring more stories that touch the heart. In the morning, Lady Beatrice descended to the dungeons expecting to find a maddened beast. What she found was Nightclaw sleeping calmly, and an empty water bowl on the floor. "What happened here, Haw?" she asked a guard. "We don't know, milady. When we arrived this morning, the water bowl was overturned." Just Beatrice clenched her fists. Someone had interfered. Someone had discovered her plan. Her eyes scanned the dungeon. They stopped at the pile of straw where Lily used to sit. And there, almost hidden, she saw a piece of cloth with charcoal drawings. She picked it up, looked at it, and her blood ran cold. The girl knew. Beatrice needed to act fast. She needed to eliminate the threat before the girl could tell anyone. But how to silence a child who was already mute? Simple. Making her disappear. Lady Beatrice went to the servants' quarters. She found Sarah working. Lily was sitting in a corner, silently playing with a rag doll. "Servant," Beatrice called, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. "I need you in the gardens, immediately, and the girl stays here. She can help in the kitchen." Sarah hesitated. Something in Beatrice's gaze bothered her, but it was an order. Disobeying meant losing her job. "Yes, milady." Sarah leaned down and kissed Lily's forehead. "I'll be right back, my darling. Behave yourself." Lily watched her mother leave. Then she looked at Lady Beatrice. The woman was smiling, but her eyes weren't smiling. Her eyes were cold, dangerous. "Come with me, girl," Beatrice said. "I have a special job for you." Lily knew she should be afraid. She knew she should run. But she also knew if she ran, Lady Beatrice would go after her mother. She would hurt her. She would send them away. So Lily followed. Beatrice led her through the corridors of Shadowbrook Keep, down winding staircases, past doors Lily had never seen before, until they arrived at a place utterly unfamiliar. It was a dungeon cell, small, cold, with a single window placed too high to reach. "You'll stay here," Beatrice said, shoving Lily inside. "Until you learn not to meddle where you don't belong." The door slammed shut. The key turned in the lock, and Lily was left alone in the darkness. Hours passed. Lily sat in a corner of the cell. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply waited, as she always did. She waited, and she thought. She thought of her mother, who must be worried sick by now. She thought of Nightclaw, who would be expecting her nightly visit, and she thought of the Shadow Lord, who was perhaps the only person capable of stopping Lady Beatrice Ashworth. But how could a mute girl locked in a cell possibly ask for help? The answer came from an unexpected place. In the dungeons, Nightclaw began to grow restless. First, there were just the movements, the beast pacing back and forth in its cage. Then came the growls, low, constant, like a warning. The guards backed away. They called for reinforcements. They feared the beast was reverting to its former aggressive state. But Victor knew something else was happening. "The girl," he said to Kale. "She hasn't come today. Nightclaw knows. He can feel it." Kale looked at the beast. He saw the anxiety. He saw the desperation. A creature that had been calmed only by a 6-year-old girl, now agitated because that girl hadn't appeared. "Where is she?" "I've sent men to check," Victor replied. "No one knows." A chill ran down Kale's spine. The same feeling he'd had when his wife died. The feeling that something terrible was happening, and he was powerless to stop it. "Find her," he ordered. "Now!" The entire keep went into search mode. Guards scoured every corridor. Servants checked every room. Sarah, desperate, ran through the gardens, calling her daughter's name, even though she knew Lily wouldn't respond. But it was Nightclaw who showed them the way. Kyle found something in Beatrice's chambers that made his blood run cold. The beast was going insane. Nightclaw ripped the chains from the wall. The titanium that was supposed to be indestructible gave way as if it were paper. The guards scattered. The alarms in the keep began to blare, and in the center of the dungeons a 10-foot-tall creature howled in pain. But it wasn't physical pain. It was something worse. It was the pain of losing someone. Again. First the queen, now the girl. Nightclaw destroyed the dungeon door. He climbed the stairs. His footsteps made the keep tremble. His roars echoed through the corridors like thunder. Servants screamed. Nobles ran. Chaos took over Shadowbrook Keep. Kill the beast, Lord Marcus ordered from some safe location. It's escaped, it'll kill us all. But Nightclaw wasn't attacking anyone. He was searching. His golden eyes scanned every corridor. His snout sniffed the air. He knew where Lily was. He could feel it, and nothing was going to stop him from finding her. The Shadow Lord appeared in the main hall. His sword was in his hand, not because he wanted to kill Nightclaw, but because he needed to protect his people if something went wrong. But when he saw the beast, Kale understood something that the others didn't. Nightclaw wasn't in a rage. He was in despair. "Where is she?" Kyle said to the beast, and as if expecting an answer. "Where's Lily?" Nightclaw looked at the king. Those golden eyes that had terrified so many guards now seemed to plead. Then the beast turned and began to run in a specific direction, toward a wing of the keep that few knew about. The wing of the old cells. Kyle followed. Meanwhile, in Lady Beatrice's chambers, Victor found something that would change everything. He had been sent to interrogate her, to find out if she knew where the girl was, miss. But when he arrived, he found the room empty, and in a slightly open drawer, a vial. Red. Almost empty. Victor picked up the vial. He smelled it. He recognized it immediately. It was worm venom, an illegal substance used to drive beasts mad, to make them uncontrollable. Beatrice had tried to poison Nightclaw. Victor ran to find the king in the wing of old cells. Nightclaw stopped in front of a door. He began to scratch, to growl, to pound. The metal groaned under the force of his claws. On the other side, Lily heard, and for the first time since she'd been locked up, she felt hope. Kyle arrived seconds later. He saw the door. He saw the beast trying to open it. He understood. "Get back." He shouted to the guards who followed him. He used his sword. 1 strike, 2, 3. The lock gave way. The door burst open, and there she was, Lily, sitting in a corner, her eyes red from crying in silence, her hands holding the piece of cloth with her drawing as but alive, whole, safe. Nightclaw didn't wait. The beast entered the cell. With a delicacy impossible for his size, he lowered his head and nudged Lily with his snout. The girl embraced him. Her small arms barely reached a fraction of the creature's neck, but the gesture said everything. "I knew you'd come. I trusted you." Kyle watched the scene, his heart aching, his hands trembling. He didn't see just a girl hugging a beast. He saw love, loyalty, connection, everything he had lost when his wife died. "Your Majesty." Victor arrived breathless. "I found this in Lady Beatrice's chambers." Kyle took the vial. He looked at it. He understood. "Where is she?" His voice was ice. "She's fled, sire. But the guards are after her. Find her and bring her to the throne room. Everyone needs to see. If you haven't felt chills until now, you have no heart. This girl saved a beast that everyone wanted to kill. And now, The truth will be revealed. The news spread through the keep like wildfire. Lady Beatrice had tried to poison Nightclaw. Lady Beatrice had locked a child in a cell. Lady Beatrice, the king's betrothed, was a criminal. Sarah ran to the hall when she heard that Lily had been found. When she saw her daughter, alive and safe in Cale's arms, she collapsed to her knees, weeping. "Lily, my darling, are you all right? Let your mama see." Lily broke free from Cale and ran to her mother. The two embraced as if they would never be separated again. Cale watched, and he felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. It wasn't pain, it wasn't anger, it was tenderness. Looking at that mother and daughter, at that love so pure and simple, made his frozen heart begin to melt. The guards dragged Lady Beatrice into the hall. She, still, tried to maintain her composure. She still tried to appear the perfect bride she pretended to be. "This is an outrage," she screamed. "I'm going to be the future queen. You can't treat me like this." Kyle moved towards her, too slowly. Each step echoed in the silent hall. He stopped just inches from Beatrice's face. "Future queen?" he repeated, with a hint of disbelief. "You tried to poison my Nightclaw, locked a child in the dungeons, lied to me since day one, and you actually think you'll be queen?" His voice was ice cold. Beatrice finally dropped the charade, her face twisted with rage. "That beast should be dead. And that girl, she's just a defective servant. No one cares about her." "I do." The voice didn't come from Cale. It came from Lily. Everyone turned. The little girl stood in the middle of the hall, her mother beside her, shocked, Nightclaw just behind, like a gigantic guardian. Lily had spoken, for the first time in 2 years. "I do," Lily repeated, her voice rusty from disuse, but clear, each word a small miracle. "Nightclaw is my friend. You tried to hurt him. You are bad." The entire hall fell into absolute silence. Nobles, guards, servants. All were staring at the girl who had recovered her voice to defend a beast. Sarah was crying, not from sadness this time, but from joy, from relief, from the miracle she had prayed for over these long 2 years. "She spoke," Sarah whispered. "My girl spoke." Kyle approached Lily. He knelt down to be at her level and looked into those brown eyes that had seen so much pain, but still held so much kindness. "You saved Nightclaw," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You did what 12 trainers couldn't." "How?" Lily thought. Then she answered, with careful words from someone relearning to speak. "He just needed someone who understood, someone who wasn't afraid, to just be quiet, together." Kyle felt the tears welling up again. This girl, this 6-year-old, understood more about pain and healing than all the kingdom's advisors combined. He stood up. He looked at Sarah, then at Lily, then at Nightclaw, who stood guard over the two as if they were his most precious treasure. A decision formed in his mind, a decision that would change everything. But first, there was something to resolve. "Take Lady Beatrice to the dungeons," Kyle ordered, his voice ringing with authority. "She will be judged tomorrow before the entire kingdom." Beatrice screamed, protested, threatened, but no one listened anymore. She was just another criminal being dragged away to pay for her crimes. When the hall finally emptied, only 4 remained. Kyle, Sarah, Lily, and Nightclaw. The king looked at the maid. "You raised an extraordinary girl." Sarah lowered her eyes. "I did what I could, Your Majesty." "No, you did much more than that. You taught her kindness, you knew courage, you knew dignity, even when the world offered none of that in return." Sarah didn't know what to say. Never had a noble spoken to her like this, let alone a king. Kale turned to Lily. "And you, little one, would you like to live here at Shadowbrook Keep? Not as a servant, but as family." Lily looked at her mother, then at Nightclaw, then at the king. "Mom too?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. Kyle smiled, the first genuine smile in 2 years. "Of course, both of you. You are inseparable. Anyone can see that." Sarah knelt down. "Your Majesty, we don't deserve." Kyle interrupted her. "You deserve more than this, much more, but it's a start." He extended his hand to Sarah. The maid hesitated, then accepted, allowing herself to be lifted up, allowing herself to be seen as an equal for the first time in her life. Lily ran and hugged the king's leg. Kale looked down, surprised. Then, slowly, he placed his hand on the girl's head. Nightclaw approached. He lay down beside them, his breathing deep and calm. And in that moment, something magical happened. 4 broken souls found each other. 4 creatures that the world had hurt. 4 existences that had been ignored, abandoned, or forgotten. Together, they formed something new, something that had no name, but that felt a lot like our family. The next day, Lady Beatrice's trial was swift and decisive. Before the entire kingdom gathered in the castle courtyard, the evidence was presented. The vial of poison, the testimonies of the guards, Victor's deposition, and most importantly, the piece of cloth with Lily's drawings. Those simple drawings of a 6-year-old girl that had exposed a conspiracy. Lady Beatrice tried to defend herself, claimed it was a lie, that the girl was making it up, that the king was being manipulated. But no one believed her. She was stripped of all titles. Her assets were confiscated, and she was banished from the kingdom forever. Guards escorted her to the border, with orders that if she returned, she would be executed. As Beatrice's carriage disappeared into the horizon, Lily stood in the courtyard beside Sarah and Kyle. Nightclaw, for the first time, was outside the dungeons, free, beside the girl who had saved him. The people looked at the scene in awe. The beast that everyone feared was there, docile as a lamb, letting a child stroke his scales. "And so ends the reign of fear," Kyle spoke to the crowd, his voice booming across the yard. "And so begins something new." He looked at Sarah, then at Lily. "I present to you my new family. Sarah Bellwether, the woman who raised the kingdom's hero, and Lily Bellwether, the girl who tamed the untamable." The crowd exploded in applause. Nobles who had ignored Sarah for weeks now greeted her. Servants who had never spoken to Lily now shouted her name. Lily didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew it was good. She knew she was safer. She knew she had a home. And she knew that Nightclaw would always be there to protect her. That night, as the castle celebrated, Kale went up to his chambers. There was something he needed to do, something he had put off for 2 years. He opened a chest he kept locked and took out a yellowed letter. The last letter his wife had written before she died. He had never been able to read beyond the first few lines. The pain was too great. But now, with his heart a little lighter, he tried again. "My beloved Kale," the letter began. "If you are reading this, it is because I am gone, and because Nightclaw is alone." Kyle swallowed hard. He continued, "I know he will be furious. I know he will attack. I know everyone will want to kill him. But please, please don't let it happen. Nightclaw doesn't need force to be healed. He needs kindness. He needs someone to sit beside him in silence. He needs a pure heart that is not afraid of his pain. When you find that person, my love, you will know. And when you find them, take care of them. Because whoever can love a beast like Nightclaw can love anyone, including you. With all my love forever, Helena." Kale let the letter fall. His wife had known. From the beginning, she had foreseen everything. She'd left instructions and that he never read, because he couldn't bear the pain, and the answer he'd been searching for 2 years. Was there, all along, a pure heart, a kind person, someone who would sit in silence beside Nightclaw, Lily? Kyle rushed down the stairs. He flew through the hallways. He went to the room where Sarah and Lily were sleeping. He stopped at the door. He looked inside. Sarah was lying down, embracing Lily. The little girl slept, with a gentle smile on her face, and at the foot of the bed, huge for the space, Nightclaw was curled up, protecting his 2 humans. Kyle didn't enter. He didn't want to wake anyone. He just stood there, watching, feeling something he had forgotten. Peace. Beatrice had found a way to care for Nightclaw, even after death. And in doing so, she had given Kyle a new family. Thank you, he whispered to the emptiness. Thank you for sending them. To me, deep in the hallway, a gentle breeze passed, almost like an answer, almost like an embrace, from someone who was no longer there, but still cared. The months that followed transformed Shadowbrook Keep. Sarah was officially adopted as Lily's royal tutor, no longer a servant, but a counselor. She had her own chambers. She had a voice in the decisions about her daughter's education. And, most importantly, she had respect. Lily blossomed in a way that no one expected. The girl who had been mute for 2 years now spoke every day. Not much, not like other children, but enough to express what she felt. Enough to say, "I love you," to her mom every night. Enough to call Nightclaw my friend whenever she saw him. The beast, in turn, had become the most unlikely personal guard in the kingdom. Where Lily went, Nightclaw went. To the garden, to her lessons, to the kitchen, to steal sweets. The 10-foot creature that once terrified trained guards now followed a 6-year-old girl like a giant puppy. The people got used to the sight. At first, there was fear, then curiosity. Now, there was affection. Merchants saved the best cuts of meat for when Lily passed by. With Nightclaw, children waved from afar. Some, more courageous ones, even asked to touch the beast's scales. This story shouldn't exist. A mute girl taming a beast that 12 handlers failed to control. A servant becoming part of the royal family. A king with a frozen heart, learning to love again. If you've made it this far, do you know that these kinds of stories, are rare? And if you want to help bring more stories like this, consider using Super Thanks. Every contribution makes a difference. On a spring afternoon, 6 months after everything started, Kale was in the garden, watching Lily play with Nightclaw. The girl ran. The beast chased her, pretending not to be able to catch her. When he finally caught her, he lay down and let Lily climb on his back, as if it were a throne. Sarah approached Kyle. She sat next to him, on the stone bench. "She's happy," Sarah said. Kale nodded, for the first time in a long time. "Thanks to you." "No." Kale looked at Sarah. "Thanks to her. Lily saved us all. Case and Nightclaw, same way me, even you." Sarah smiled. She was always special, even when she was a baby. Even when. Her voice faltered, her eyes filled with tears. "When what?" Kyle asked gently. Sarah took a deep breath. When her father died, it was an accident. 2 years ago. Lily saw everything. And after that, she stopped talking. The doctors said it was trauma, that she might never speak again. I tried everything, but nothing worked. Until Nightclaw, Kyle completed. Sarah nodded. He gave her something that I couldn't. Someone who understood the pain without needing words. Kyle looked at the beast and the girl playing, 2 broken souls who had found each other and healed each other. My wife knew, he said. She left a letter. She said Nightclaw would need a pure heart to be healed. I didn't read the letter. For 2 years, I couldn't. The pain was too great. Sarah placed her hand on his shoulder, a liberty she would never have taken months ago. But now, they were family. You read it now, and that's what matters. Kyle smiled, a sad but true smile. She would have loved Lily. Sarah looked at the king. She saw the loneliness that he still carried, the longing that would never disappear completely. And she felt something that she didn't expect to feel. Connection. We're here, she said. Lily, me, Nightclaw. We don't replace who you lost, but we can be by your side for as long as you want. Kyle looked at her. For the first time, really looked. He saw the goodness in her eyes and the strength in her posture, the dignity that she maintained, even after going through so much. Jasi, you know what I admire most about you? He asked. Sarah shook her head. You've never asked for anything for yourself. Everything you've done has been for Lily. Since the first day, you worked. You endured humiliations. You stayed silent when you wanted to scream. All for her. That's the purest type of love that exists. Sarah looked away and embarrassed. I only did what any mother would do. No. Kyle touched her chin, making her look at him. You did so much more. For a long moment, the two just looked at each other. The king and the former servant, the man with the frozen heart, and the woman with the infinite heart. Lily chose that moment to run to them. Daddy Kale, Mom, Nightclaw wants to show you something. Kale froze. It was the first time. Lily had called him Daddy. Sarah smiled. Let's go see what it is then. The three went together. Nightclaw was waiting, beside an ancient tree, at the back of the garden. As they approached, the beast stepped aside, revealing something. Buried among the roots, it was a chest, old, covered in moss, with the royal crest engraved on the lid. Kyle recognized it immediately. It was Beatrice's wedding chest. He thought it had been lost. With trembling hands, he opened the lid. Inside, there were more letters. Dozens of them, all addressed to Kale, all written by the Queen. Her before she died, and on top of them all, a special letter, with a single word. On the envelope, family. Kyle opened it. He read aloud. My beloved, if you are reading this, it means that Nightclaw has found someone. It means that your heart is opening again. It means that you are ready to move forward. I know you will feel guilty. You will feel like you are betraying me. But I need you to understand something. Loving again does not mean forgetting. It means honoring what we had. I don't want you to be alone forever. I want you to be happy. I want you to have a family. I want Nightclaw to have someone to protect. So, whoever that person is, That family that you have found, embrace them, love them, care for them as you cared for me, and know that I will always be with you in every sunset, in every breeze, every time Nightclaw purrs with happiness, with eternal love. Helena. The silence that followed was sacred. Kyle wept. Sarah wept. Even Lily had tears in her eyes. Even without fully understanding, Nightclaw approached. He rested his head on Kale's shoulder, a gesture of comfort from a beast that was finally at peace. And so, beneath that ancient tree, 4 broken souls found their healing. A year later, the entire kingdom was invited to a celebration. It wasn't a wedding. Not yet. It was something different. It was the official founding of a family. Kale, the Shadow Lord, was adopting Lily as his daughter. Sarah was being named Royal Advisor and Guardian of Queen Helena's legacy. And Nightclaw was being freed from any sentence, officially recognized as Protector of the Realm and Guardian of Princess Lily. The castle courtyard was packed. Nobles, commoners, merchants, children. Everyone wanted to see the girl who had tamed the beast. Lily was beautiful. Sarah had sewn a blue dress for her. Her dark hair was braided with silver ribbons, and beside her, imposing but docile, Nightclaw waited. Kyle stood before the throne, holding a document that would change everything. I, Kyle Draven, Shadow Lord of Shadowbrook Keep, declare before all that Lily Bellwether is, from this day forward, my daughter, Princess of the Realm, heir to the throne, and the bravest person I have ever known. The crowd applauded. Lily ran to Kale, hugged his legs, looked up with those brown eyes that had seen so much pain, but now overflowed with joy. "Thank you, Daddy," she said. Kyle knelt down, hugged her back. "Thank you, my princess, for teaching me to love again." Sarah watched, tears streaming freely. Victor, beside her, offered a handkerchief. "Thanks to your daughter," he said. "This kingdom has hope again." Sarah smiled. She always was the hope. She just needed someone to see it. The celebration lasted until nightfall. There was music, dancing, food, laughter. Everything Shadowbrook Keep hadn't seen since the death of the Queen. And at the center of it all, a 7-year-old girl danced with a 10-foot beast, while everyone watched in wonder. Nightclaw moved with surprising grace. His steps echoed in the hall like heartbeats. His scales gleamed in the candlelight, and his golden eyes never left Lily's brown eyes. They were an unlikely pair, the smallest and the largest, the most fragile and the strongest. But together, they made sense. Together, they were perfect. When the music stopped, Lily climbed onto Nightclaw's back. The beast carried her to the balcony, overlooking the gardens. The sky was full of stars. Lily looked up at the constellations that her mother had taught her, to the infinite universe that stretched beyond what her eyes could see. And then she said something that Nightclaw would remember forever. "She's up there, isn't she?" Queen Helena. Nightclaw purred, a deep, rumbling, comforting sound. Lily hugged the beast's neck. "I'll take care of you guys, you, Daddy, Mommy. And she's watching over us from above. It's a team." "Right." The beast closed his eyes. If he could speak, he would say yes. He would say that Lily was the miracle they all needed. He would say that he would never be alone again. But since he couldn't speak, He just did what he did best. He stood in silence beside her, and that was more than enough. The beast had torn apart 12 trainers, injured 20 guards, destroyed 3 titanium cages, and a 6-year-old girl as had tamed him, with nothing more than silence, patience, and a pure heart. This is the story of Lily Bellwether, of Sarah, her mother, of Cale Draven, the king who relearned to love, and of Nightclaw, the beast who just needed someone to understand. It's not a story of brute force. It's not a story of magic or special powers. It's a story of love, of the rarest kind, of the kind that asks for nothing in return, of the kind that transforms beasts into friends and kings into fathers. And the truth is, we all have a Nightclaw inside us, a part that is hurt, a part that wants to lash out because it's afraid, a part that the world calls a monster. And we all need a Lily, someone who sits beside us in silence, someone who isn't afraid of our pain, someone who sees beyond the scales and the claws, and sees what we really are. You have 2 choices now. You can forget this story, go back to your life, as if nothing has changed, or you can accept that love appears where we least expect it, that healing comes from unlikely sources, and that, sometimes, the most unlikely person can be exactly what we need. If you've made it this far, you're like Lily. You didn't give up. You stayed until the end. You understood. And that makes you special. Now, comment down below. Have you ever had a Nightclaw in your life? Someone or something that everyone feared, but you understood? Or were you someone's Lily, the person who stayed when everyone ran? I'll be responding to comments in the first 2 hours, and if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because everyone deserves to know that even the fiercest beasts can be healed with love.